Hi, everybody. Welcome to October Culturama, and we've been doing Culturama things all year long, and I realized that I am bad at using Eventbrite, so I will get better at using Eventbrite so everybody will get the invitations for now. Somehow only about a third of the people have been getting the invitations. Maybe it's lower than that, but I'll be sending them out sooner than the day before. I want to give a couple of things. First of all, I want to talk about Zoom. If you haven't been on Zoom for a while, it now has, if you're like me, I'm a little bit hard of hearing. Actually, I'm a lot hard of hearing. There's a transcript at the bottom. If you can do the live transcript, and it's pretty good. It interprets things pretty well, especially if you're male and you have a California accent. Apparently that's the go-to. And so it's translating what I'm saying pretty well. I also want to, I'm going to put two links here on the chat. The first link is to Eventbrite, and that's for November Culturama. November Culturama is our big event. Culturama used to happen over one weekend in April, and we would have 6 stages at Mount Sac. Mount Sac, if you don't know, that's where I teach. That's our college. We'd have 6 stages, and people would be, you'd be able to choose all these different things. And it was great. And then the pandemic happened. So we decided that the 6-stage thing doesn't make a lot of sense because it's just more difficult for everybody to navigate that. So we spread it out over the entire month of November. And November, every Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m., we'll be having events. So you can join up. And the place you sign up for this is that Eventbrite thing. Just click on there, that has a schedule. I will soon have the schedule up on the Culturama community page. And let me share that. I'll show you that page. You can see that what's up right now is basically a sign up for our November event. Oh, and hey, there's my old gallery that I just let go. That's a picture of my old gallery. So Eric, now you've seen the gallery. Okay, so there's that. I hope you all come to that. I wouldn't expect anybody to go to the whole thing except for me. I'll be at all the events. But you can drop in and out, and there's all sorts of things that'll help you. Some of it you like, some of it you won't need. Right now we have a section for people who want to be community college professors. How do you get that job? I'm like, I don't think like Daniel, I don't think you're interested in that. So so you drop in and out as you like. All right, so I'm glad to see everybody, and we've got a bunch of things to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about number one, publishing, and we're going to do that for a while, and then we're going to do prompts in the afternoon, or in the later morning, and then at 1 o'clock, Ken Johnson's going to come. He's going to talk about his new books and what it takes to write. He's an interesting guy. He went to Vietnam, came back, became a firefighter, realized the amount of trauma he was in, so he got advanced degrees in philosophy and psychology, then became a trauma psychotherapist. He works large incidents, including the Yosemite fire, if you remember that, in like '89, and 9/11. He was a second responder to 9/11. And just a whole host of things. And now he's writing his own sort of memoir-inspired stuff about a lifetime of trauma, right? How do you deal with that level of trauma, and what is it? How do you get through? I'm really grateful for him because I'm not living this level of trauma, right? I'm not in the war, but he's telling me how to deal with my own, and I think that's really that's really something. Okay, so we're going to talk about publishing. I'm of the opinion. I talk about publishing a lot. Daniel knows this. I try to help as many people as I can publish as much as I can. And the reason is I did an MFA, and all that time in the MFA, I kept asking the same question, which is how do I publish? And during this MFA, I was with 3 professors basically and 6 other students for 12 hours a day for 2 straight years. It was a really, really close relationship. I kept asking that. I never got anything but a condescending answer. I never got any sort of structure. So I told myself I would, anytime anybody wants to know about publishing, I will be as specific and direct as possible, and I will help as many people as I can as possible. That extends here. I want you to feel free to ask any question. But also outside of here, if you contact me, let's meet for an hour and I'll take a look at your work and I'll tell you how to publish it, right? Or specifically where. The hardest thing to know is where. That takes a long time because like it's just this whole mass of information out there. So I'm going to give you as much information as I can. And I want you to stop me and ask me questions at any moment you want. But I'm going to start with a couple of philosophical shifts here. One, why do we publish? Why in the world would you ever publish? For me, it's for one reason. The world is a dark and lonely place. And when I read somebody who's experienced what I've read, what I've experienced, I've realized that I'm less alone, right? I realized that it doesn't have to be so dark. And when I read something that I just enjoy, that makes the world less dark too. I hear a lot of people who aren't writers talking about how is it all about the money? Like, first of all, no. And then second of all, why shouldn't it be? Like, what other profession do you say you shouldn't be doing it for the money, right? I get this in both my professions as a teacher. Sometimes people ask me, well, it's not about the money for you, is it? Yeah, it is. Like, I live in a capitalist society in which I need money in order to pay rent and have food and stuff. Yeah, part of it's about the money. I mean, if I could do it for free and live happily, I would, but that's not a reality, right? A lot of people will try to define this for you, and you shouldn't allow them to try to denigrate your accomplishments, your publications, all that stuff. You just have to not listen to this. Number one, it's okay to have ambitions. Number two, like when I ask people what their goals for their publishing are, I usually get something like, well, I just want to get my work out there, which is maybe something that you think. Now here's a couple of things. That's a completely unrealistic goal. Can't happen. You can't just get your work out there. This is a profession, right? And so you can imagine any other profession. Imagine a doctor. And you say, well, what are your goals for being a doctor? He said, goals for being a doctor? Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. I just want to go in a street corner and cut people up and sew them back, right? I just want to get I just want to meet people and like do a colonoscopy. You know, it's like that's an unreasonable goal. It's not something that's possible. What is possible is a doctor saying, I want to be a surgeon at Cedars-Sinai. Now, the doctor may never be a surgeon. I don't know why I chose doctor. I know nothing about medicine. Might never be a surgeon at Cedars-Sinai, but if she takes all the steps to get there, then that's going to be a satisfying life, right? Because that's the thing that feeds that person. So what I'm going to suggest is, as a writer, you have to make those same sort of goals. Like when I got a question a couple of years ago from my student who was graduating as a brilliant writer, and he was going to go off to some university that specialized in writing. And he asked me, "Do you think it's reasonable that I could be a writer?" Which is the saddest question I've ever heard. It's an incredibly sad question. What he's saying is, I'm pathetic. Is there any way I could possibly eke something? Of course you could. It's like any other profession. And you need to define what you mean by that profession, what it is that you like want out of it. I like to teach. So I teach and I also write. And that gives me a certain sort of freedom to do an artistic kind of writing. Oh yeah. It's they've got those masks kind of, and then it's frustrating. I'm not even gonna go into that. Thank you though. Thank you very much. Okay. What I'm gonna when I got out of high school, I went to community college and I really liked it, and I thought, I want to be a community college professor. At the time, that seemed like a completely unrealistic goal. I had graduated high school with a D+ average for various reasons. And I'm like, well, I want to get into education now, and I want to do it higher education. I haven't even finished freshman comp, and I'm thinking about this. It seemed completely unrealistic. But because I knew what I wanted to do, I knew the first thing I have to do is get an A in freshman composition, right? I knew all those little things to get there. You can do the same thing with a writer. As a writer, what I'm going to ask you to do is think about something. I'm going to ask you a question now that you should take a little time to answer. The question the answer keeps changing too. So if you want to start to publish, a really great thing to do is choose what seems like a very specific and seems like very unrealistic goal, right? Just as I, for the exact same reason, I had a very specific goal to be a community college professor, and it was unrealistic. But because I knew what that goal was, I could break it into little things, right? If you know what your writing goal is, and I don't care about things like I want to have kids by the time I'm 35, or all that's your own stuff. But as a writer, what are your goals? Make it specific, make it unrealistic, because what you can do is find that thing that matters to you and start working toward that thing, right? And even if you don't reach that goal, you have a very satisfying work life. You have separated what's merely interesting from what's necessary. So for me, I said, and this goal has actually changed. I'm not sure what my new goal is. I'm in a moment of transition, but I've always said that I want to be the poet laureate of California. And so when that seems really unrealistic, doesn't it? But now I don't have an ever retreating goal. So I became the poet laureate of Sequoia and Kings Canyon. That's great. That's exactly what that feeds me. I publish in all the places that I should publish. That's great, right? Should I write a mystery novel? Probably not. That's probably not all that. That's probably something that'd be kind of interesting to me, but it really doesn't feed my soul, and it becomes a distraction. So that is, I think, the number one shift you have to make if you're going to start publishing and publishing well. What do I mean by publishing well? Publishing at the places where you reach the people who you want to reach, right? And so for me, I read Ellery Queen a lot. I like it. It's a great magazine. Do I want to publish there? No, not at all. Ellery Queen's a mystery magazine. I enjoy reading mysteries. It doesn't feed my soul to write them, right? They're just kind of fun for me, right? Or what's another? New Yorker, probably not going to. Well, I mean, if they came around and asked me, I'd say yes, but like I'm not sending anything to them because it's really not in my what I'm doing. Okay, does that make sense? When I ask people this, what's your long-term specific? Usually, by the way I teach this, or the way I used to, we'd go up to Whidbey Island and we'd wander around the fields and we'd talk about this, and people would be thinking about nothing but this for a couple of days, right? And that's I think that's the way to do it. Or maybe you could go on to that property you're talking about, Daniel, and wander around the foothills and think about that. That's the way to do it. Here, it's going to be a little bit of distraction. But when I say this, the first reaction people usually have is, I don't know, Nobel Prize. Okay, so most people don't actually want to do the work of a Nobel Prize, because that's not just about writing. That's also about cultural shift, right? This is about something beyond just the writing. Mostly what people want, what their goal truly is like a 5-book contract for fantasy novels, a major thing, right? That kind of thing. I am starting to lose my screen. I might have to turn this off and on. Hold on a second. My computer is going badly. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to have to shift computers in a couple of minutes. So, okay. This computer sometimes slowly degrades, and I've lost most of you now. Okay, so I don't know where it is. Okay, so think about what it is that you actually want, what feeds you, what kind of writing you want to be doing, that sort of thing, and come up with that answer. And that's going to be the thing that shapes your career, that makes it possible. Okay. So let's talk about some nuts and bolts things. And let me ask you this. I mean, we have a publisher here. We've got people who have done a lot of publishing. We've got people who've never done any publishing. Does anybody have any quick questions to begin with, or any questions at all? Just like I don't know how to do X or Y or whatever. Yeah, Daniel.
Like the one thing you said really seemed to be really important is find I think you call it right publishing. I mean, there is so much crap being published out there. I mean, that's what kind of, why would I even want to be published? Nobody's going to buy what I want, what I write from the general venue. They're looking for they're looking for series they can binge on and things that, I mean, I don't know, I don't mean to be negative, but I'm just like, my daughter works for an online magazine, which is a new thing called Emergence, which only publishes just cutting edge kind of world changing sort of stuff. It's linked with the Golden Sufi Center and stuff like that. So that I'm going to try and send some stuff there, and I've sent stuff to some, like Parabola and things like that, but I usually get rejected by the ones that I really would like to be published in.
Mm-hmm. So like, what does that mean then? What does that publishing mean? I mean, Parabola would be great, but Parabola has a lot of competition. You're actually talking about a number of things there.
Yeah.
One thing is you're walking into a bookstore and you see somebody's books. Why would you stop and look at their books, right? I have had a great time reading Hemingway. I've not read all of Hemingway. I've got 2 or 3 books left. Why do Hemingway was always kind of fun for me. Why should I choose this guy Daniel Prynes I've never met before off the book? And that has to do with platforming. Do we all know what platforming is? Platform is the people who are predisposed to read your book even before you've written your book, right? So why would you have platform? Well, because say you are I don't know, you're somebody who understands human resources really well. You've had a career in human resources, and people want to know what you know, right? And so you've got sort of a fan base. So that's great. Or like one of the best platforms I ever saw was Craig Ferguson, who had a late night talk show, and he was, I don't know, it's pretty funny. And right before he published any book, everyone was ready to buy his books. So what you're looking for are those people who are like you, who need what you have to say. And Daniel, you have a lot of really interesting things to say. Every story you ever tell me starts in the most interesting way. It's like, when I lived in an ashram in upstate New York, it's like, wait a second, let's back up there. There's a lot of interesting things I want to hear there, right? And so that's about finding your niche, right? And so if what you want is to publish at a place like Parabola, what you probably want to do is start building your niche, right? You don't need everybody in the world to read your stories. If you have 1/2 of 1% of the public reading your story in a world that contains 7 billion people, that's a lot of people, right? That's and so that's from a purely business point of view. That's why you start building your audience. And I'm going to switch.
Is this like a mailing list that you have somewhere else, that when you say the niche people, I mean, when the platform, are these people that you reach out to when you solicit?
No, not necessarily. I build my own platform, and it's people who want to read my stuff. And you are part of that platform, right? So when I go on to Facebook and I say, well, I've got a new book out, I hope they say, oh, that's interesting, I want to read that.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the things that most people, when they hear that I teach college, say, oh, well, you've already got your platform. It's like, no, because I'm not teaching creative writing students. Most of my students are like math majors or welding majors. It's like, I shouldn't be forcing my stuff on them. They're not interested.
Yeah.
And so I build platform other ways. One of the things I do is I try to write 50 book reviews a year. So one book review a week. And I do that for a number of reasons. One of which is platform. One of which is I really like to write book reviews. Number 2, I like to write deeply. I like to read deeply, right? And this means I'm not just glossing over anything. I'm really reading as deeply as I possibly can. And I think it's a spiritual act. Mm-hmm. I think it's helping somebody get someplace where they need to get. And there's other things about it as well. But one of the things is that it helps to build the platform. Now I've got these people who know me and are probably willing to promote me. I write somebody a positive review, and they're probably going to help me do my stuff. I don't write negative reviews. If there's a book that I don't like, I simply don't review it. And I have that a lot. And the reason I do that is not crass. You're thinking, oh, well, he's a salt. No, it's because I don't like Harry Potter and I don't like Moby Dick. And I think both are works of genius, right? And so me giving a book like that a negative review is a really dumb idea. You know, and so I just I assume that some books just aren't written for me. That's fine. And so that's I think that kind of answers your questions, right? You're trying to build this platform, and one of those ways you build those platform is you get out there and you publish a bunch of stuff. And you've got a lot of stuff to publish, and it's all, there's a very specific Daniel Krine's voice, right? That I understand, and I yeah, I mean it's a tremendously specific thing. I need just one moment. Would you make sure that the sound is off?
Yeah. Should I go in as you or should I go in as me?
Go in as you.
Okay.
I'm feeling really lame, but maybe you could tell me, just define what is platform? What is that, like a bunch of people?
Yeah, it's a bunch of people. Bunch of people who are predisposed to buy your books even before you've written your books.
Okay.
Right. So like if Sanjay Gupta is going to write a book about medicine, there's a whole bunch of people who are going to read his book about medicine, right? If he comes out with a book of poetry about then he has no platform whatsoever, right? And so okay, so that makes sense to everybody. Okay, let's talk specifically about how to publish. First thing you need to know is how to put together a query letter. Currently, there are two general ways of contacting publishers. One is through Submittable, which you can get a free. You don't have to pay for Submittable. You can get a free account there, and the other is through email. And it's about half and half right now. Most of the large publishers are on Submittable. I should say all of the large publishers are on Submittable. Some of the smaller ones aren't because it's a little bit expensive. It costs the publisher. So if you're submitting on Submittable and somebody's asking for $3, I usually pay it because that's basically the price of postage. And it helps them keep their doors open. It helps them pay for the Submittable itself, right? Okay, so when you're querying on Submittable, they will ask you specific questions. So usually you don't have your entire query letter or cover letter, I should say. But if you're sending to through the email, you're going to have a cover letter, which is generally the same every time, right? And so the first thing is, remember that it's a business letter. So you're going to have the proper header, which is your name and address and email and phone, the date, and then their name and address and email. Then you're going to have dear whatever. So if you're addressing a woman, make sure you do MS and only MS. No, for the love of God, not miss, right? So it's no misses, none of that, right? Make sure that it's proper and professional. If that person has a title, use the title, right? It's a business letter. Sometimes you'll see somebody's, hey, John, I got that. I worked in a magazine for a long time. It's like, wow, is this somebody I know? And it's like a friend. And I go look and realize it's not a friend. It's just some guy who decided to call me John. And I don't really have a big problem with that, but it's kind of weird in a business setting to do that. I don't have a problem with it, but some people would. Okay, so then we're going to have, if you have a contact with them, you're going to remind them what that contact is. So for example, if I'm editing a magazine, you say, hey, then you could use my first name. It wouldn't be weird. And you say, we work together in Culturama. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know who this person is. It's just like establishing a relationship. Now that's really important. It seems strange, but the reason it's important is I know if you know me, that you know what I'm going to want from you, right? You're not going to send me the wrong thing. And so it's like, oh, okay, I'll give this person a closer look. Also, like, when I was a magazine editor, I tried to contact every single writer and give advice, even when I rejected. I wasn't able to, but I tried as much as I could. But if somebody writes me, I definitely will give them that sort of information. And mostly those were revise and resubmit letters, right? So I'm saying, I think you're great. If you revise this, I think it'll be right. And although you're not allowed to say that directly. So if you get some sort of advice like that, that's the way I would treat it. Okay, so that's the second one. That's maybe a sentence or two, unless you have something really interesting to say. And mostly for me, it's, hey, we met at this conference and really like your stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes you get advice from somebody to send something. It's like, I know you through John, and he told me to send because he thought I'd be right for you, that kind of thing. The second paragraph is going to be a quick summary of whatever it is you're saying. If you're sending a story, it's character, desire, conflict. My character Joseph, I'm sorry, the story Birds is about Joseph who wants to catch a bird, but his mother won't let him, right? So it's simple as that. Just something very quick so they understand it's kind of in the ballpark. If you send something like that to a magical realist magazine, they'd be suspect already. But you're letting them know you're professional, you've done your research and that kind of thing. If you're sending stuff to highlights for kids and it's about murder, like, no, right? They're doing something very specific. The third paragraph is your bio. And some people have now shifting the bio till after their name. That's fine. And it's generally going to be third person. Just like, who am I? What am I publishing? That kind of thing. Show that you're a professional, whatever that means. That means if you've never published anything, you're still a professional, right? Show them why you have intimate knowledge in this. It could be, I'm writing about Riverside, and this is where I'm from. I'm from Riverside. And it's like, oh, okay, well, this person has this sort of intimate knowledge of this place, which is, I think, a really good thing to have. I've got so many of my students in LA will write about New York, and I'll ask them, why did you write about New York? And they say, well, because it seemed interesting. So when was the last time you were in New York? It's like, oh, but I've never been to New York. It's like, well, okay, you should probably go, thank you. You should probably go to New York.
Being a little slow this morning, but it'll catch up.
Okay. Right, you should be. Sorry. Okay, so I've got the second computer as insurance now, in case this one goes out totally. And I don't know if you're getting two views of me or not. Okay. So right, I guess so many of these stories written from a place of lack of knowledge as opposed to place of knowledge. So why aren't you writing about Los Angeles? So that's the kind of thing. So any way you can show you have some sort of expertise in whatever it is you're writing is a really good idea. So like, I'm trying to think of what I know about you. Like Linda, you had this great profession, all right? And if you're writing about, what was the profession again?
Sorry, human resources, leadership and training and development, all that junk.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really good to me, right? And I think, okay, so if you're talking about, if you write a story from the human resources point of view, like at first that seems, it's not, I don't know if I'd read it, but then like somebody who's an expert in human resources, yeah, I'd read that. That's really interesting, right? I hate when I have hated every single teacher movie I have ever seen. They always get it completely wrong. It is just wrong. Like that nonsense that Robin Williams did. Like, are you kidding me? That's the worst teaching I've ever seen. Like, I know you like it because it got the students right, but the teachers are all wrong. Oh, and Harry Potter, like job number one is not let children die. And there, as far as I can tell, there's always some kid dying at that school. It's really bad teaching, right? And you know, every single one of those things I've not liked. So now I've got somebody who's an expert on being in HR, and I want to read that. That seems interesting to me. I talk to Ken very often about his work as a psychologist. And he says, yeah, the movies and the TV shows always get it totally wrong, right? And I'm sure if you whatever profession you're in, you've seen that, and it's got it wrong. So now that's the aspect.
Like in Billions. Do you watch Billions?
I haven't yet, no.
Oh, okay. Well, the HR VP, who's a great actress, but whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. I'm sorry to go out in front of a rant here, but see movies about the deaf, they are all wrong, and it's dangerous. The way they treat the deaf. There's this myth that all deaf people can read lips, and that's really destroyed the lives of a lot of deaf people. And so, okay, so
But John,
that
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's
Please.
kind of exactly what my other question was. So
Mhm.
why is that? Why aren't the people that do know published? Why aren't they able to be seen? Is it the
gatekeeping.
platform? Is it the platform?
Platform and it's gatekeeping, right? I'll talk about gatekeeping. So, but the last of the 4 paragraphs for the query letter is just a thank you, right? Thank you for taking the time. And that for me is always just 1 sentence long.
Yeah.
I don't like to have a very long, any of this query letter, right? I don't like to read the long query letter. When I would see like a 3-page query letter, or not query, cover letter, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do it. Also, for the love of God, don't put a copyright on anything. That is an indication of amateurishness. What you're saying is, I know you're going to steal my stuff. It's like somebody might steal, but the whatever a writer knows is that as soon as you put pen to paper, you are copyrighted. The Copyright Office tells you that you don't need to spend the money on the copyright, right? Don't put that there. It's just a strange thing. Make sure you
What's the first paragraph again, John?
it's contact. If you have a contact with them.
Okay.
So if ever you want to write about artists in the Inland Empire, you write to me and say, I've got this interesting proposal for you. That's what I'm doing in my publishing career right now. And we know each other through Culturama. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can work with that. Okay, so what other questions do you have? Let's talk about the concept of gatekeeping. Oh yeah, Jose.
Yes, like I was hearing about the person publishing, right?
Mhm.
But I think all writers publish not for the money, but for the love. All artists do it for the love, right? I told
Yeah.
my daughter, when I'm gone, read my book, and I'm talking to you, because once you publish, you live forever. And
Yeah,
that's
that's what the first part of this talk was, about why to publish, and it's not for material gain, but for spiritual reasons. And if you have material gain out of that, that's great.
Mhm.
But it's to talk to people, right?
Yeah, I published my first book through Baby Book. I didn't know anything. I just rushed it, and I had to pay about $2,500. And my leader, rest in peace, she got mad at me. Said, "Why do you spend so much money?"
Yeah.
And you gave me one Lulu writer, so that I can publish in a less expensive way, so I can get my books published. And if somebody likes it, well, start buying. But that is the key, to get something out there, like you say, copyright it once you put it in, and enjoy your success of writing a book. That's the most beautiful thing.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and you should, if you're self-publishing, there's nothing wrong with self-publishing, but you should do it with your eyes open. Well, I'll get to self-publishing in a little while. We talked about gatekeeping and why aren't these people who have this knowledge publishing? And very often that's do you know what I mean by gatekeeping? Gatekeeping is there's somebody who's out there either intentionally or just sort of accidentally saying this person should be a part of the big thing and this person shouldn't be, right? And so how does this happen? Well, there's certain people who have the time and energy to get education and to get into places of power in the publishing industry. And these people like to publish work that speaks to them. So very often it skews in the United States to white male, right? And white male rich, right? Because if I want to become a publisher in New York, I'm going to have to intern in New York for a while and not make any money, but live with New York prices, right? That's really hard to do. Now that's less true of the small presses. In fact, I think that small presses, you can do pretty much anything you want. There's less of that. There still is some though. that to answer your question, Daniel, that's why this is happening, because the people out there don't necessarily know what they're talking about, but they have all the power, right? So this movie Coda just came out, and Coda stands for Child of Deaf Adult, and they used somebody to play a Coda who was not a Coda, and so every deaf person who watched that, it's like, that's the strangest accent I've ever seen in my life. Why are they signing like that? And so because the person who was funding the movie didn't know better, right? Didn't know there was such a thing as an accent for ASL. Okay, so
John, Aruni had a question.
oh good. I can't see anything because my thing is all screwed up. So thank you for telling me that. Aruni, what kind of question do you have?
Thanks, Carrie. Hi, John. I was wondering if it would be possible to post on the Culturama website a sample query letter with the different paragraphs labeled as to, like introduction, why, where you know the person from, a brief bio, one sentence summary, and a thank you. I was in a workshop and they passed out sample query letter and a sample bio, and it was really helpful in me writing my own bios and queries subsequently, so I didn't have to keep looking it up online. Would that be at all possible?
Yes, that is absolutely possible. I'm happy to do it. I'm also happy to work with you on your query letter, right? I'm going to shift computers now where my face is so that I can start video.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Carrie.
Okay, the sound will still come out of this way, but this way I can see who's raised their hands at least. Okay, so I absolutely would do that. Also, if you'd like to bring me a query letter, a cover letter, I'm happy to look at it. No problem whatsoever. Okay, so now how do we get our publications? The first thing is that you're going to want to use is Submittable. Submittable is a really great resource. It's how you submit your work, but you can also find places to publish there. And yeah, Daniel.
I sorry to interrupt, but since you switched, you might want to start the recording again.
No, the computer's still on.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're getting my voice from one place and my face from another.
And your name is Anne now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm exploring my feminine side. So okay, there's some chats. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you, Shu. And Aruni said, oh, you got that. Isn't it because publishing is business and publishers more likely to publish that will sell? Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that's true as well. So I am of the opinion that you can be accurate and realistic and still sell. But in the end, that's what a publisher is doing, right? Publisher wants to sell something, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? When you're coming to a publisher, like, you have a responsibility to that publisher, and that's to sell your books. Why? Because they have a right to live too, right? They're not some sort of thing that should just be all giving all the time. And so it's not a charity, it's business. So absolutely. And I think it's when you're working with publisher, you should have a good sense. You should both have a good sense of what you're going to give and what you're going to get from that relationship. Okay, so Submittable. Let me find this so I can show it to you. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so I think there's a different Submittable. No, it's the Submittable. Okay. Sign in. Oh, this wants me to become a publisher in Submittable. And I'm just signing in with Facebook. And you can see it's got all of these different things. This is my wife's account, and she's not a writer, so there's nothing there. But it would have all of anything that's been accepted, withdrawn. It's platform tracking. But the great thing you do is to find magazines, you click on Discover up here. And this is everything that has a deadline for today. You can see how much they have out there. So when I'm looking for magazines, if I'm trying to find new magazines, I often will just do this. Now I see a bunch of the same ones, and I'm a little bit leery about that, especially Blood Pudding. Blood Pudding has about 5 a week, it seems. And so I'm a little bit leery about that, but I'm taking a look at some of these other magazines, and like I'll go check them out. So I'll go to Last Resort Literary Review, which I've never heard of, and just click on them, and it gives me a quick link to their page, and it's a really, really useful thing. Oh, that's taking a little bit of time here. And then I'm gonna look through and see if my work is right for them. I'm also going to take a look at duotrope.com. Duotrope is an incredibly big big link. Yeah. We all locked up. Okay, are we back? Can you all see me? Okay. Okay, so Duotrope is incredibly large thing. It has a link to every literary magazine in English, basically. And it looks like this, and it's a huge thing. I'll show you search. I'm going to look for just the index of listings, and here's I'm going to show you how large this is. So this is just the magazines and book publishers that start with the letter A. Each one of these things here is another magazine. I'll show you how many magazines and book publishers there are in English.
Holy moly.
That's just A, right? And so there's a lot there. And so what I do is I start looking through them. I do this periodically, and I won't necessarily read the entire magazine, but I'll take a look and see if I'm kind of in the ballpark. There's stuff that I know that I'm not in the ballpark for. I would love to get into Alaska Quarterly Review. I think that's a fantastic magazine. But Al Blanchard Award, the New England Crime Bake, I know that I'm not right for that. I don't write crime, and I'm not in New England. Yeah, Jose. Writer's Market, I try to stay away from. And the reason is they don't have as many references, and the thumbnails are really bad. Yeah, we could say it. And so I've tried to stay away from that. I started with Writer's Market. I went to, when I first started writing, I was at Writer's Market, and the little thumbnails didn't tell me what they were. At first, I was just going for the New Yorker because I figured, why not make as much money as possible? I'm 18 years old. I should be in the New Yorker. And then I started randomly submitting to them, like looking for them. And one of the ones, I got to the end one time, and the first one there was the NAMBLA Journal. And that, I think, is the danger of this. Does anybody know what the NAMBLA Journal is? It's a pro-pedophile magazine. And it stands for North American Man Boy Love Association. And there is a real danger in that. And like I was close, I was like 18 years old, and so I was close to being the age that they were targeting, which is, it's really, really awful. And so like the Writer's Market is not a bad tool, but I'd also make sure that I'm following up with it as well. Duotrope that I just showed you, it's a really good thing. It's overwhelming, and it costs $5 a month or $50 a year. They give you a discount for the year. So be careful about that. But I think like if you're just starting out, please come and talk to me or my teaching partner, Lloyd Aquino. Both of us help our students publish their work. And we've had, there's been hundreds of people who've published out of the Mount SAC program. Yes, Susan, you can streamline the publisher by genre. As you're doing those searches, that you can streamline all of that. And and Connie says they have great weekly email. That's great. So Shulamit asked, why am I leery of calls by insurance publishers and submittable? I'm leery about that because I'm worried about I'm worried about scams. And so one of the ways people do it is they'll put out so many contests, they're making a whole bunch of money from a whole bunch of people, and they're just going to set, they have no integrity about who they're going to do. So if it's like somebody has a prize and you have to sign up for it for $20 and they have a prize every week, like, okay, well, this person's not really going for that. You know, they're not doing something with integrity. Okay, good. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Hey, John, a quick question about that with contests and stuff. There was, I think it was, I don't know if it was Parabola, but it was a poetry contest, but they wanted like $15 per poem that you turned in, and the prize was only like $200. It's like, what, isn't that a scam too?
yeah, I think that's a too low a price for it, and $15 per poem as opposed to a group of poems, that's a little bit crappy. I think there's a lot of great prizes out there, and what they're doing with the prizes is they're funding their magazine, right? And because they should be allowed to eat as well, right? And there's just costs associated with running a magazine. But I don't go to the things that that are too expensive. So there's a lot of contests out there that cost $60. Like, I'm not going to spend $60 in a prize applicate, right? Unless I really know the publisher, and I just would donate the $60 anyway. But I don't know anybody who would do that because that's just so expensive. Right? It keeps a lot of people out. And then like the Missouri Review, I'm not gonna submit to the Missouri Review again. I get 100 emails from them a week, and I'm sure they're getting, you know, so many thousands and thousands of entries that I don't really have a chance. So no, Connie makes a really good point there. So the New York City Midnight, they charge $48, which sounds like a lot, but then they give you a detailed report. That is actually a really good buy, because to get professional editing is a really great thing. So look for things like that are value added. I think that's great. Okay, so that's kind of some of the basics of this. Oh, let's talk a little bit about self-publishing. I'm all for self-publishing, but and I think it really works in some situations when you already have a pretty good platform going, and you know exactly who wants to buy your books. That's great. If you're willing to do all of the editing, that's great. Most writers are pretty good editors. It's nice to have a second pair of eyes, though, right? Especially for the line editing stuff, which in my own stuff, I will often read what I want to be there as opposed to what's actually there, right? Just because I'm so familiar with the work, I know what I meant to write, and it's just not what shows up. The hardest thing is not the hardest thing. One of the hard things is the cover and layout of the book. That's a very difficult thing to do. A lot of writers don't have the capacity to do their own covers. You can very often tell when they've been given too much freedom in the covers, because they won't tell the entire story of the book on the cover, right? Which is not the point of the cover. Layout is difficult, but it's gotten easier because you've got, as Jose said, you've got Lulu, you've got Lightning Source, you've got what used to be called CreateSpace. They've changed their name. All of these are pretty good. Linda, do you know it?
Well, it's just called KDP, but it doesn't have all the services that CreateSpace have.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, CreateSpace was a great thing, and it was just, you got your book directly on Amazon. Okay, and what KDP does too now, you get it directly on Amazon, but it has fewer services. I think they've streamlined their model. Yeah.
I'll say one thing, that a lot of people from CreateSpace who were laid off went over to a new company down the road, like a few streets away, called Palmetto.
Thank you.
And Palmetto, you know, it's not cheap. It is more expensive than CreateSpace was, but not that much more. And they are fantastic. I have to say, they are very responsive. They create a very nice product.
Do they put it directly on Amazon?
Sorry?
Do they put it
Yes.
directly on?
And they will actually go into your account, if you give them your password, they will put it directly on your account and it will show up on Amazon and KDP. But I'm just going to say it's not cheap. I think CreateSpace was around $800, if you used a lot of the services,
Oh.
not the design of the book cover, but they have to lay it out and everything. And I think Palmetto is more like 1,400.
Okay, that's a lot of money. So
Yeah, but they do everything, like the layout, they'll even design the cover, they'll do customization. I'm talking about what I did, but you could do less. You could do less.
yeah,
So I'm just saying I was quite impressed with them compared to some others that I've seen.
yeah. I think that's right. No, I think you're getting value for that too. They're doing some of that stuff that is very, very difficult to do.
Can I ask you to repeat the name of that company? Is it Palmetto, like a palmetto bug?
Yes, it is. Palmetto.
Got it. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good. That's great. Thank you. So I hadn't heard of them either. Okay, so that is the difficulty. Another difficulty, there's editing, there's layout, and then there is promotion, getting your stuff out there if you want to get your work out there. And that's difficult. It's learning how to promote yourself is a very, very difficult thing. It's a lot easier for me if I'm with a publisher, especially a small publisher. I prefer working with small publishers. My large publisher books they've been very difficult. And it's like working, I was talking about working with Mount SAC. I love working with Mount SAC, but it is a huge bureaucracy. And it's very, very difficult to get anything done sometimes, right? The same thing with a large publisher. And so I prefer the small publishers. The great thing about that is when you're with a small publisher, that person has a history, knows how to sell your books. You are part of a cultural movement. So anybody else who has bought books from this company is willing to buy more books from this country. So I'm with, right now I'm with Bamboo Dart Press. I love Bamboo Dart Press. And people who, who else is on Bamboo Dart Press is Meg Pokris, right? Anybody who likes my work is going to like Meg Pokris and back and forth, right? We do essentially the same thing. Stephanie Hammer is on there. Ken Johnson, who I'm going to interview in a little while, is on there. And it's fantastic. It's a great place to be. So yeah, so that's the advantage of working with a publisher. The guy who it's called Bamboo Dart Press. It's the same as Pelicanesis Press.
Okay.
Same guy, Mark Gibbons, and he knows exactly what I want. He knows how to sell my stuff because he knows my audience. And I know, Connie, you run a publisher, and you keep it to a very specific few things because you know how to promote that, right? So I think you do a lot of Alaskan things. Like if I were to publish a book about Alaska, I don't know what I would do to sell it. I guess I know some of the names of some of the cities. Like I know that I'd probably go to Juneau and talk to somebody in Juneau. I don't know, right? But you're an expert. You know exactly what you're doing. So that's the advantage of working with this. And most people are doing it out of deep love for whatever their thing is, and a deep knowledge too of their market. So Jose.
Yes, I have 23 novels after the one that I published, and about 100 poems that I want to create a book of pictures of flowers and things like that. So I need to know, who do you advise for the editing part, which is so important, and also for the layout. One of those companies that you mentioned, because I have 23 novels that I want to be edited and then published. But that's a good amount of money. But nevertheless, when you want something done, I need your advice. Thank you.
It's editing is difficult, and it's usually different than those publishers. I don't know if Palmetto does editing. Linda, do they do editing?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have my own editor, so.
And that's about what I was going to say. Most of the time, if you want to get good editing, you have to find a good editor, just kind of an independent person. Now there are places that will do ghostwriting for you. But those are incredibly, we're talking $50,000 for that. But for an editor, you're looking for an independent person. First thing I would do is not get somebody who's too cheap. Because if somebody is doing this cheaply, they've never done it before. They're probably somebody who's pretty good with grammar, maybe has been a tutor, that kind of thing. I would expect a good editor is going to charge about 6 cents a word. I know a few. They teach at Culturama. Scott Creeley and Bonnie Hearn Hill both charge about 6 cents a word. And that comes out to a few $1,000s for each book. So that's really tough, right? That's a lot of money for
I have about 3 books over 100,000 words.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Susan, I'm going to answer that question in a second. That's a really good question. And the editing is it's expensive because you're asking a professional to do this. So like both of them are like Bonnie Hearn Hill charges 6 cents a word, but she's also a New York Times bestselling author. So that's I think that you're getting your value for that. Scott is a professor. I used to do editing work. I don't do it anymore because it's just I can't make the kind of money I can teaching, and it's really frustrating job. So it really costs a good deal of money. So what do? Is I take part in groups, right? I work with my writing group, and actually both of those people are in different writing groups of mine. I work with people who I can give them good advice and they can give me good advice, right? We can work back and forth. They will catch things that I have, and that's a lot slower, and that requires a personal relationship. However, it's easier now because we have Zoom, right? It's so I used to drive once a week up to Fresno from Los Angeles, and some of you don't know what that means, but that's 4 hour each direction. I do that every week because that's where Bonnie lives, and I didn't want to ask her to drive down. I'm the younger person in the relationship. And so and we get together with 5 or 6 people and we'd work all day. Now we can do it on Zoom, and it's a lot easier. So yeah, if you can find somebody to work with, I think that's really your best choice. But if you want to talk about editors, I'm happy to give you some references, and they will charge you a good deal of money though.
Yeah, I found a program that does the editing too. AutoCrit. Yeah, about a few dollars a month. And that's a great program because it would change so much. It's an amazing program. AutoCrit, I believe.
AutoCrit? I've never used that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you can get things like Grammarly and that sort of thing. And that's kind of that. At least they'll get you grammar, right? Which is
right. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, editing, Nina. That's why it's so expensive. It takes so much time. So if it's Michelle Ladd editing. Oh, that's great. I wonder what she charges. Okay, but yeah, it takes a huge amount of time, which is why I stopped doing it. On top of everything else, your client's paying you a lot of money and they want it done quickly, right? That seems fair, but that means me staying up all night, day after day. It's too much, so I just stopped doing it. Now, Susan asked about what are my thoughts about getting an agent. For me personally. Yeah, Rooney, I agree. Michelle Ladd is fantastic. For me personally, I'm not at a stage where I want an agent. I'm a poet and I'm a flash fiction writer. And so that's not somebody who has an agent, right? Why? Because I make my money talking about writing. I make my money touring the country, and used to be the world, but now I can't leave America. And like getting teaching engagements or speaking engagements or doing readings, right? I don't want one. The agent can't make money from me. And so the agent isn't going to be looking for me. The agent is let's first talk a little bit about what an agent is. Basically, an agent is somebody who has a lot of good contacts and knows exactly what those good contacts are looking for, right? In the publishing industry. So they'll see a book and say, oh, this would work perfectly for Jerry, right? So I'm going to take it to Jerry. That's all an agent is. An agent generally has a very narrow scope of what he, she, or they will represent, right? So, for example, it's exactly the same as a publisher. So, like Connie knows exactly how to publish Alaskan work. An agent would know exactly who to bring but Connie probably doesn't know how to publish books about Jamaica, right? Or sell books about Jamaica. I don't know what your relationship is with Jamaica, but right, you really want somebody who understands that niche. So when you're looking for an agent, you've got one of two things. You can start to send out to agents, just go out, and it goes out to their slush pile. And that's good. People get agents that way, but there's a couple of dangers. The first danger is you're never quite exactly sure if you're going for the exact right agent, right? This is just some guy getting this book, and it's like, it seems like that person might be right, but it might not be. And in fact, the more established they are, the less likely they are to be useful to you, right? So if you think of Stephen King's book agent, I don't know if he has one, but if he does, like, what incentive does that agent have to sell your book? He's got Stephen King money, right? I doesn't need you. And so there's very little incentive. Mostly what you're looking for are the young, hungry people in the office, and it's hard to contact. But I'm not saying don't send slush pile. I'm saying send it, but that's the reality. Also, the people who are working through the slush pile are often interns trying to make a name for themselves. They're reading the stuff as quickly as they can and taking it to the right agent. So that's both good and bad. The reason I don't like it is I'm kind of an old guy now, and the interns are all young people, and I don't know if they get me. You know, so that's bad. The better thing for getting an agent, and I absolutely recommend getting an agent if you're the right person for that. The better thing is if the agent is coming after you, right? The agent says, "Oh my God, I have to have that person," because the agent knows what they can sell, and they see you and they say, "I can sell that person. I know exactly how to do that." And so they come after you, and you can negotiate a good thing. So how do you do that? You do that by getting larger publications in the field that you want. So if you're a mystery writer, if you publish something in Ellery Queen, you will have agents knocking on your door, right? If you are a literary novelist, and you publish something in Crazy Horse, you will have agents coming after you, and that's exactly the thing you want. You want the largest publication within your field. Now, I know, Susan, that's kind of a cart and horse sort of situation there. That's different, but if you can do that, that's great. What I would not recommend is there are some conferences that are really great, and there are some conferences that are total scams. One of the things that a scammy conference will do is they'll bring in maybe 80 agents, and you can sign up for 15-minute appointments with them for $50 for that 15 minutes. And you go up to them, and how do you know which agent? They don't tell you which agent. And so suddenly you're talking to an agent for Sanjay Gupta who really knows how to sell medical books, and you're a poet. And it's like, okay, well, you just wasted my time. And that person has no intention of picking up anybody anyway, right? Another great thing is, but there are some conferences that have agents there who will talk to you in a real way. We always bring in one agent at Mount Sac. She's not going to be able to come this year because she's having a child, which I think is wonderful, but she'll be there next year. And she's one of the great West Coast agents. And she's not picked up any of our people yet, but she has said, I'm not right for you. You should talk to this person. And that's a really great way of going. If you can get that kind of one-on-one discussion with agents, that's the ideal, right? And that cuts the slush pile. And then you have a contact too. So as I'm looking for conferences, I start thinking about that. I say, okay, is this just a meat market? Like, does this look like a bar in 1975? Or is this something where I'm actually going to be able to talk to somebody in a meaningful way? So if there's a whole bunch of agents, I'm leery of that. But if there's just a couple, that's okay. I think of the conference, I don't know what it's called anymore. It used to be called Squaw Valley, but then they became conscious of how offensive a term that was. So they're no longer called that. They were pretty good. They'd bring in maybe 7 or 8 agents for the week. And you know, their job was just to have a chat with you. And so you'd meet them at the bar or whatever, and you just start talking to them, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, you should think about this person," right? And that's a much more useful thing. But yeah, what kind of work do you write, Susan?
Women's literary fiction.
So that's great. I'm not sure what the top magazine publishing for that would be. I would, well, I think probably just a straight ahead literary magazine. Probably Not Crazy Horse, which I just referenced. That's really male, I think. God, what was that one that used to be from Oregon? They were so good. Glimmer Train, something like that, right? Glimmer Train, Angel Flight. Are you in Los Angeles?
No, I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
Actually in the Bahamas.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you can get something that's located near you, I think that'd be great. Now, Florida has a couple of really top high-end associated with the colleges, publishers, and I think that's good. I know nothing about the Bahamas literary scene.
I wouldn't publish in the Bahamas. Actually, I'm currently a student at Antioch University, and
Oh.
they actually have this writers, I forget what they call it. It's a place where students can submit their work for editing before they submit their assignments, but they also have like an advanced service for actually editing creative work for like novels and things like that, creative work for students who are writing outside of their school assignments. And I'm definitely going to hit them up for editing and that sort of thing. But the reason I asked that is I always understood that you mentioned a cart before the horse thing, that you can't get published without an agent, and you can't get an agent unless you've been published, and there's that whole.
Well, yeah, no, that refers specifically to books, though. So if you can publish large within magazines, then I don't. Do you write short stories, or is it purely novels?
I write short stories. Yeah, I've
Okay.
submitted some to contests and that sort of thing. And I've just recently started writing poetry.
Okay, well let's talk about that then. Let's talk about how to publish, and so like how do you get into those things? It's a first thing you need to be aware of is the correct emotion for rejection. So I worked at this magazine for about 20 years, the Chiron Review, which is actually, that might be a place for you to send your stuff, the Chiron Review. The number one reason I rejected someone was the magazine was full. Right, we do one or two, depending on the year, magazines a year, and usually we'd have all the stories we needed by the end of January. Right, so from February till December, we rejected everybody, and it was just that we just didn't have any more room. We'd gotten so much good writing because we had a good reputation, and that. So I mean, when I get a rejection, I'm never like angry about it anymore, sad about it. It's like, oh, it's okay. They were full. Sometimes I've gotten a few really angry rejections, and then I thought, well, that's pretty good. If my writing can foster that kind of emotion, it must have been pretty good writing, right? So okay. So number one, that I got some really creepy advice about dating in high school, and that creepy advice is wrong for dating, but it's true for publishing. And the advice was, it's all a numbers game. You should just go out and submit as much as you can. Well, they didn't use the word submit. They said hit on as many people as you can. That's really weird and creepy, but it works for writing. So this year I've published 50 stories, 40 book reviews, and I don't know how many poems, a lot of poems. I've been accepted that many times. I've been rejected maybe 500 times. Right, because I just send my stuff out as much as possible. I went through four months of just sending my stuff out every single day. I'd send maybe 10, 20, and that's how I got it. I simultaneously submit, and I only submit to places that allow simultaneous submission. You just have to get your work out there as much as possible. It's important that you're sending your work to the right places. However, you shouldn't. So I will do some research on these things, and I'll say, okay, well, these people publish basically what I'm publishing. It takes me about 30 seconds for a new magazine for me to figure out if I'm right for them or not. And sometimes I'm a little bit wrong, but mostly I'm right. If I spend any more time than 30 seconds figuring out, I'm no longer worried about, is this place right for me to publish? I'm now going deep into my past and torturing myself. It's like, is my mother, was she right? Well, I never publish anything because I'm stupid. You know, it's like you take the emotion out of it. You're just looking at the thing saying, am I right for this magazine? Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, send it in. And if sometimes I got a rejection letter that was really interesting. The guy said, really like your work. Take a look at the magazine again. You're not the right person. And so that's really great. And then he gave me advice on where to send my stuff because he assumed I was new. That's really great. That's usually the very worst that'll happen. It's really important that if you're doing publishing the way I am, that you keep really good records of where you send your stuff, right? So that you can then, once you've been accepted, you can tell the others that you're withdrawing your story. And mostly people are just happy for you if they allow simultaneous submissions. Say, oh, sometimes you get, oh, I was about to accept yours. Could you send me something more? Fantastic on that. So, okay, good. And so for your short stories, I think, one of my groups that I started this, and I'm no longer doing it with them just because I'm wrapped up in my school duties. But every Friday they meet and they have everybody brings, I think, 3 magazines, and they all submit to the same magazine. So that if you've got 5 people meeting, that means you're going to submit to 15 magazines, and that will take you maybe an hour to submit to that many magazines, because it's just, you've got your thing going. You're not sitting there thinking, am I a good person? Am I a bad person? You were just submitting, right? And that's the way to do that. So if you can find a group for that as well, I think that's great. And I'm happy to put you together with people who might want to be doing that as well. But we've got a whole bunch of people here. You could all work together. Okay, so great. Yeah, Linda.
I'm sorry. Can you remind us, John, excuse me, once you get published in whatever magazines, like I think I have 5 now, and I started with you doing your submission group. How long do you have to wait until you can publish that story again somewhere else? Like, what's the time frame?
Well, generally you won't do it in another magazine unless they accept reprints. I personally would, there's very few places that do accept reprints. There are some, but very few. But what you're going to want to do is turn that into a book.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and that is immediately you can do that. In fact, if the 2 came out at the same time, you'd really help to promote that magazine.
You mean turn your collection of stories into a book?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that's generally how you do it. So I've had a couple. I won a contest one time with a story that I love, and they didn't print any of the winners. So I've got the story that I love that only like 2 or 3 people have read, just the contest people. And I've got to get that story into a book because it's killing me that I can't show anybody.
Well, why did I have it in my brain that you can actually publish your story again after a period of like a year or something? I don't know.
No, I mean, if they accept reprints, you can, but most don't. You can find some that do Carrie.
Okay.
They have the Master's Review has this chapbook thing coming up for essays and flash fiction. And so I wanted to publish a chapbook of essays and flash fiction, but a lot of them have been published already. So
that's good.
I wanted to, but just what's the proper way to say, like, is it, and a lot of them haven't been, they're forthcoming. So like, what's the proper way? Is it like a sentence at the bottom that says published in what so-and-so? And do you have to include the month, or what if it hasn't been published yet? It's forthcoming.
That's
and you don't know what month
awesome.
It's going to be.
The very easiest you can do is, it's called an acknowledgements page. You just put acknowledgements and say, these stories have been published by or are forthcoming from, and then you list the magazines.
Oh, okay.
It's very easy to do, or you can list each one individually.
Okay.
And sometimes that becomes really hard if you change titles, which very often, if you're publishing something in a magazine, it's different than the title that'll be in the book for different reasons. Like the titles do different things in different places. So you say was published originally as this in this magazine. It's great.
And then what if it comes out, because like I have something that's coming out in a flash, something from overseas that's due like from 2020 that still hasn't come out. And who knows when that'll be out? Well, what if the chapbook comes out before that it actually comes out?
I'd probably just say it's been published by, and I'd also actually
Uh-huh.
contact the magazine publisher and tell them, my book's coming out before this. Is that okay? They might not want you to do that.
Okay.
I think it hurts sales for certain people.
Okay.
I know with Choya Needle, we can't do republishing because of the contract he has with Amazon.
Okay.
So I don't know how that works, but
Okay. So maybe certain ones I wouldn't want to include in the chapbook because they're super slow to publish.
possibly, yeah. And then you think about your next chapbook, right?
Okay.
Got multiple chapbooks coming out. I think that's really, really wonderful.
Well, I actually just published my first thing for pay,
Fantastic. Yeah.
the Sunlight Press.
That's the congratulations. Where is that?
It's an online thing, but it's a really good, reputable press.
Yeah.
So.
So put it up and I will share.
Okay.
That's
Well,
good.
I don't know. It'll probably be like they said it would be within the next 6 months.
Yeah. That's frustrating, but again, it's for pay. So what the heck?
Yeah. But it's confusing because I have to like create a gravatar and
Yeah.
PayPal, and it's like
Yeah.
all this new stuff.
What a great problem to have.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. Congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Okay. So Daniel, I think you had your hand up. Oh, you've got to go do your thing. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody. This is great, and I'll look forward to watching the recording. I did have a quick question though. I published some flash fiction in the. You sent me the one for what's the one? Worthing Flash.
Yeah.
And then when it's published, I can barely even find my way around that magazine to find where it's published in there. I mean, I don't know how anybody would ever read it if I can't even find my own stuff.
Yeah. So when he does that, I believe he does one a day, and that day you're on the top thing, but then you have to scroll to find anything else you have. So
Okay.
I think he's using a blog spot or blogger or whatever they call that now.
Okay.
And so that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Okay. Well, have a great rest of your workshop, and I'll see you soon. See you this afternoon.
I'll see you later. Jose.
Yes, I belong to, for the past 3 years, I don't know if you heard about it, Rimo, NaNoWriMo out of New York. When in November, you write 50,000 words. You don't turn in the work, you just write, and you can continue to create. And I think that'd be a good way to stimulate your creative juices, to write, because that's the most beautiful thing for me. Write. So if people are interested to join, it's free. You just put on the number of words every day and make sure you get to 50,000 words in 1 month. Thank you.
Great. What other questions do you have about publishing?
Me?
Anybody?
Oh, I see.
Stuff you've always wanted to know. Yeah, Carrie.
Okay, this is a question that I asked you last time and I couldn't figure it out. How do you get the number? Maybe I should ask you this on a one-off, but how do you get the page numbers to show up on the second page?
Oh, that's just a header. She's asking about manuscript formatting, and I should actually talk about this. 12-point font, Times Roman only. Don't do anything special with it. On the first page of a story, you have your name and address and email and contact. Then one line down, centered, title of your story, and then your story. On the second page, starting on the second page, you need to have your last name and page number in the top right. And that is just a header function. And so there's, if you from pull down menus, it says header or footer. And you put a header, put your name, put your page number. Make sure, by the way, that they are also Times Roman 12-point font. It'll default to Arial 11 for some reason. But then you scroll up while still in the header function, you scroll up to the first page and it'll have a box. You'll say different on first page. You click that and then that'll disappear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing I was wondering is how come when you on Gmail, when you email it to somebody, it always defaults to go onto the left side? Have you noticed that? The page
I don't
number
use Gmail,
and
but
the oh, okay.
like it won't it'll put
The
your
page it puts the page number in the header on the left side for some
Oh,
reason. Oh, and it looks terrible when you send stuff out.
well, generally though, they're going to want that as an attachment unless they say don't send attachments. And in
Okay.
that case, if they don't want
It'll
an
come up as a
attachment,
doc.
yeah, and you wouldn't want to have a page number on a long scrolling thing anyway. So
Okay.
I just leave my page numbers off that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Good question. What are the questions?
Oh,
Yeah, well,
how do you know when you're ready? And how much do you have to have?
yeah, that's a good question, and that I think that's different for a lot of people. So I was raised as a like sports guy, right? I was supposed to be when I wasn't good at it, but I was raised to have that sort of athletic thing, and so that it's always go go go, you know, that sort of thing. And so for me, I submitted when I was not even close to being ready, because you're champion, you should spur it on. And so, but I notice a lot of other people will torture themselves for years and years and years and years. The way I do it, the way I work is I like to work in community. And so a group of people who will work with me at my pace and at kind of at my level, and who will tell me things. Like Bonnie once told me I was 50 sonnets into a sonnet stanzas into an epic poem, and she took a look at it and she said, "You know what? You're not an epic poem writer." It's like, which was, you know, that sounds really harsh. It's not harsh. That was the nicest. She saved me from writing another 2,000 bad sonnets. You know, that was the nicest thing. But I trust her, but I wouldn't trust a lot of people to do that. A lot of people are there. There's a lot of people out there who are just trolls, right? And so I avoid them. You need to get the right group. And you need to have somebody who is understands what you're doing so they can see the beauty of what you're doing. Mostly, I think you're probably ready, Robin. I can't imagine you're not there, and I'd be happy to take a look at your work, and you know, we could talk about if you are there. But then the hard thing is knowing where to send your stories. And if you want to work with me with that as well, that'd be good. But if you get a little bit of a group, then the group helps you to do that. I'd say about 5 people in a group. None of those people should say things like, people don't get along with me sometimes because I tell it like it is. That's just a jerk. That's just somebody who likes to see pain in another person's face. I'm going to work with people who are really, really there to help me and to make me prosper. So that's how you know you're ready. People are like overwhelmed by your story. I have a hard time understanding which of my stories are good. And the reason that is a lot of the times I'm writing about myself. And as a human being, I run from pain. I don't want to re-experience this pain, but that's exactly what the story needs is that pain. So the story that feels really satisfying to me is satisfying for no one else, right? And so that's my group helps me with that as well. And they'll say, "Oh, I just had a story that went, I didn't think it was very good, and it just did really, really well." I am the worst at knowing what of my work is any good. So
I have that too.
Yeah, but I'm happy to look at your work. We can arrange a time. I'm usually free on Fridays, a little bit at least.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. I saw somebody else was raised. I think Linda was raising your hand.
Yeah, I was, but my question is so sort of customized question, but I'll ask it, and then you may not know anything about this. Okay, so, I published like 6 novels, and one of them I published through a bookshop, a local, very well-known bookshop. And it was so difficult. I mean, it was one of my favorite books that I wrote, and they published it and they put it on Amazon and out there in many places. And in order to get books for myself, I have to go through them. They actually charge double what Amazon KDP charges to buy your own books, which is insane. And you don't get paid directly like you do through KDP, Amazon. You have to wait for the check to come to them, just like a publisher, I suppose. I mean, same thing. Anyway, it's just horrible. And it's one of my favorite thrillers that I wrote in Tahiti. And is there a way to, it's self-published still. It's like called self-published, but I went through them. Is there a way for me to just stop that and republish it? I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I just talked to them, and I'd say I'd like to have my rights back, rights to the book back. I did that. I did that with a book that I wrote early on, and then the publisher treated one of my friends really badly. So I said, I don't want you to have any more money. I'd like to have my rights back.
Okay.
And I said, sure, fine. Here, consider them yours.
Okay.
And usually that's the way it goes, especially if you're not selling a lot of books for them right now. They'll probably be just happy to let it go. Be friendly, unless you have animosity. The way they treat me, I was so angry that I was animate.
Yeah, I have it inside, but they don't know that I haven't. So, and then when you republish it, do you get it a new cover and everything, or what?
Probably if that was their cover.
New ISBN, obviously, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if they did work on the cover, that's their work product.
No, they didn't.
Well, you could ask them too. I mean, but just be friendly. Say, I don't think this is working out very well. I'd like to self-publish. I don't think it's working for you either. I don't think I'm selling very many for you.
Yeah.
Just be really, really friendly.
Okay, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what you're asking for is your rights back.
Right, but do they have rights?
Yeah, they have the copyright. And they have the right. It's their book. It's your work product, but it's their work product too. So just treat them civilly. And I'm sure if somebody came to Connie, she'd say, okay, if you don't think it's working, then you should do it that way.
Okay. I'm so dumb at this. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm going to get better advice than I just did.
Sorry?
Read your contract. The contract you have with them should spell out something about how to cancel it.
Yeah, I don't think they have that in there.
You probably have some sort of a written agreement with them. It'd be worth reading that to see what the deal is before you do anything else.
Okay.
Thank you.
What other questions do you have? Anybody confused by anything? Hezekiah asked if will we have access to these tapes. Yeah, I'm going to put on our website, but I think there's going to be a problem because I think it's going to be mostly the black screen that I'm speaking through. So you can listen to all of this, but you won't be able to see my animated face. So that I think that's probably fine. Good. Any other questions? Let's talk about scams then. Scams do exist. In the typical scam is there's somebody. I've gotten hit by a British scam once, and it was somebody down by the river. And I don't know why that was significant, but all of my friends said, "Oh yeah, we knew about those guys." But what'll happen a lot of the time is you'll send somebody a query letter. And they'll say, oh, this looks interesting. Send us 10 pages. You send 10 pages. Say, oh, that's really interesting. Send us 50 and then 100. And this is taking a long time. And it's both exciting and frustrating because it's taking so long. It's like, oh, they're really looking at it. But I wish. And so finally they say, send us the entire book. and you'll send the entire book. And the response you get back is something like this. We've been having debate in the office about your book. Some of the editors don't think it's sellable. They like it. They don't think you can sell it. But I personally think it can be sold. But they told me that because it's not sellable, you're going to have to go out on your own. So I'm happy to champion your book. And if you send me $5,000, I am ready to work with you, right? It doesn't cost $5,000. That's a ridiculous amount of price, unless you're going to get something very, very specific, like a specific editor that you like to work with. That's a scam. They're going to publish your book as is. It will be published, and you'll be out $5,000. You get no help selling the thing. So be careful about that. There's some contests that are a little bit scammy, but we've already talked about that. These contests that you really have no way of winning. The worst one I ever heard of, though, this guy self-published his book, which is fine, and then he sent his into a contest. I don't think this contest exists anymore, but it cost him I think $2,000 to enter the contest, and he won the contest, and the prize was $1,000. And so it was like he was paying to get the name of the contest, basically, on a thing. It was something like the Paris contest. It had some sort of fancy name like that. So watch out for that. Watch out basically where you're paying to get nothing, right? You can self-publish basically for free. And if you're not, you have to do all the work. But if you want to do that work, then you could go to this place that Linda was talking about Palmetto. I think that's not a scam. They're telling you exactly what you're getting before you get it. And they're not playing bait and switch on you, right? I think if people are just upfront, that's good. Okay. What other questions do you have? As specific or as weird or as small as you like. Okay. So then let me talk about another way that I get beyond do-a-trope and submittable. I belong to a lot of Facebook groups. One of them is the International Flash Fiction, and it's international because they also allow Americans there. That's a British place. And microfiction I belong to. I belong to all these different groups they'll come out and tell you where to publish. And that's good. You get a lot of good stuff there. What's even better though is I have a lot of friends who publish, and I will follow what they're doing. When you start to publish, please put it on your Facebook or whatever social media you have. Say, these people just accepted me. That helps the magazine, and that also helps your friends who are trying to publish as well. The negative aspect of that is the negative aspect of all of Facebook. It looks like everyone is feeling sad because it looks like everybody else's lives is better than they are. And now you're saying, hey, I published something. And they say, why don't I publish? But that's aside the point, right? Get it out there. I follow this guy named Kevin Ridgway. He's one of my former students, but the guy does nothing but publish. He just sends stuff out. I'm following my student. And it's like, okay, there's another magazine for me, right? He'll get like 3 acceptances a day. I mean, it's ridiculous. The amount of work this guy publishes. And so that's a really great, actually follow Kevin Ridgway if you're a writer like me. He has all bunch of stuff out, right? Okay, so that's another way. Okay, so it looks like we're kind of out of questions. Am I right about that? Okay, so we will break a little bit early. We're going to come back at 11 o'clock, and we'll talk about we'll have some prompts up for you. Right. So I'll see you in a little while. I'm going to try to figure out how to turn this off. I can't even see anything on my original computer now. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so anybody left on here, I'm going to have to turn off that computer, which means this might shut down. I will reopen this Zoom link in 40 seconds if that happens. Connie, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, I have the sound turned off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I got sound on now. Connie, are you there?
Yes.
The computer told me that you've been made the new host. I don't know why. Would you mind making me the host? If you go to participants, you'll see my face on the, and that it'll say Ann, and go to more and make me host, please.
I can see that I'm the host, but I only have the choice at more of editing the profile picture or renaming. Oh, wait, you're Ann.
I am, yeah, that's another thing. I'm Ann now.
Okay, I can make Ann the host.
Thank you. Okay, great. Computer problems. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so I gotta take a short break now.